My father was born in 1893 and should have been in the First World War, but he wasn't a well man, and all he ever told me was that he lost most of his school friends.
He was a coach builder when I was little, but I mean that was 1950s, and I can't remember.
I found this letter, which is all in pencil. I can imagine somebody in the trenches writing that with a small piece of pencil and probably licking the pencil to get it to write. He's writing home to tell his parents that his brother has died. He was about 500 yards behind when his brother was shot. Every sentence starts, "Dear Mother and Father."
Dear Mother and Father, I expect by the time you receive this letter you will have heard from the War Office of poor William's death. Everyone in the battalion are very sorry for both of you, as he was a plucky soldier and one we could ill afford to lose. Dear Mother and Father, I went to the funeral and he was buried with full military honours. I need hardly tell you, dear Mother and Father, that it was a shock to me, as I was only about 500 yards in the rear of him. Dear Mother and Father, the men who was near him when he got the shot tell me that he died almost as soon as he was shot. Dear Mother and Father, I think this is all I have to say this time. Hoping you won't upset yourself too much. From your loving son, Sydney.
Dear girls and boys, you have not responded in very large numbers to my invitation to write about what calling you would like to follow when you are old enough. I note that one little niece would like to be a nurse, and I think that is a very fine profession for a woman. I hope she will be able to obtain her wish.
When I grow to be a man, I would like to be a farmer, because I like to be amongst the cattle, sheep and horses, and it is healthy calling. I also like to till the land and sow the corn and turnips, and be in the fields when the crops are cut and led into the yard to be used as food for the cattle and horses. There are a lot of different kinds of manure to be looked at. They have to be kept up, which is sometimes hard work in the hunting season, as the sportsmen often knock them over. Nearly best of all, I like to see the collie dog work.
Dear girls and boys, I felt very sad as I read over the very excellent essays sent in this week. Brave little Belgium, described by all of you as a country of smiling cornfields and cheery, happy people, is now a place of desolation, and its inhabitants scattered afar wherever they can find refuge. The most unhappy part is that it has all happened through no fault of the Belgian people, but simply and solely because the country lay in the track of the great warlord who is marching his cruel armies into sunny France.
A boy should learn to run, swim, carve, be neat, be honest, make a fire, be punctual, do an errand, sing if he can, sew on a button, hang his hat, hold his head erect, help a mother or sister, button his mother's shoes, wipe his boots on the mat, help the boy smaller than himself, speak pleasantly to an old woman, put on every garment on his proper place, keep his fingernails from wearing mourning, lift the baby out of the cradle and hold it for an hour, when necessary, treat the girls so well that they will wish he was their brother, close the door quietly, especially when there is a sick person in the house, do a good turn every day, and above all, keep smiling.
I went the other day for an excursion to a place in the country where there is a lovely river. As we rowed along it in a small boat, the views unfolded, one after another, and the banks of the stream were gaily decked with forget-me-not, campion, hawthorn blossom, broom, and a host of other lovely flowers. Looking around on such a scene as this, one finds it hard to realise that there is a dreadful war going on all the time, and not so very many miles away. Presently a boat came into sight with 3 men in khaki. They were some of the wounded soldiers from the nearby hospital enjoying a trip on the river. So we were reminded of the war and of the terrible consequences of it. Dear girls and boys, your letters this week are very good to read. I am not printing many of those which tell about your war services, for they tell so unanimous a tale of knitting and sewing and giving that I think the one letter will do for all. Truly, my nieces in the Hexham district have been doing their bit.
We are all busy here doing things for the war. I am knitting socks just now to send to our own village lads, who are at present in a firing line in France. I am also helping my mother, who is making nightshirts for the wounded soldiers. I have a cousin in the front. We send him parcels of tobacco. Mother is sending him a box of cakes tomorrow. Of course he doesn't eat them all himself, but divides them among the other lads, and I am sure it must be a treat to them to get a piece of cake.
Haymaking season is now here, and I have no doubt many of you will be assisting in the fields in a more serious fashion than former years, when a pleasant romp in the hay was considered great fun. This year, a lot of volunteer helpers will be used for the harvesting of the crops. This is one of the most pleasant ways in which women and girls can help the war. Dear girls and boys, the stories you have to read this week tell us what brave deeds our soldiers are doing in order to win the war and bring back peace and pleasure to this dear land of ours. One thing the Tommies are unanimous about is that the war must not be finished until it can be ended in a real victory for the Allies.
At 12:15 at night, about 100 men left our parapet and crawled forward to the attack, but somehow or another they must have got wind of it, for they were waiting for us. 4 men and the officer in front of me had reached their wires when they spotted us, and they peppered us with machine guns and rifles. It was awful. Half blinded with mud, I managed to scramble into a shell hole full of water. It wasn't a very big one, but lying on my side I managed to push the earth up in front of me with my hands. I should think I lay there about an hour, not daring to move hand or foot.
It is the clear duty of every Britisher, young and old, to do their bit. You girls and boys may wonder what you can do. You are too young and too weak to go and fight. Yes, so you are. But I have no doubt most of you are familiar with the Boy Scouts' motto, "Be prepared." Well, that is what you can do. Get prepared for the time that is coming after the war, when you will be grown-up men and women, and the men who are now in the prime of their life fighting our battles will be middle-aged and worn. Get prepared by doing your lessons at school with redoubled energy, by using your powers of observation in every possible way, so as to be able to seize on your opportunity the moment it arises. Another way in which children can do their bit is by being happy and cheerful in their home life. You know, children, the present is a gloomy and sorrowful time for most of the older folk, and it is one of the best ways of helping the war that I can recommend, that you should be happy and merry, and by your smiling faces and caresses make your parents and grown-up friends feel more cheerful and hopeful during these dark days of war. Your loving Uncle Fred.